And the foreigners are not dumb. They see the Fed also monetizing about $1.5 trillion worth of collateralized debt obligations, which are bonds, which are made up of mortgages, which are somewhere near worthless. And so I think that the pressures are just enormous, and I don't see how any sane person can be buying stocks at these levels. And my advice, and my advice has been in this rally, and this rally is probably spent itself. We closed around 8,700 today, and it's come out from 6,600. And I figured it would go to somewhere between 78 and 8,500. It's gone a little bit further than I thought, and it's all in smoke and mirrors. The news today was full of Mr. Geithner being in China, speaking at Beijing University, and at Beijing he gave a speech and said that China's investment in U.S. dollar-denominated securities is a safe investment, and the students stood up and laughed at him and jeered him. And so that wasn't played up in the newspaper or in the media. What was played up was that he made a speech and said that they were safe, and they left out the negative part. And that's usually what the media does, because they are owned by several major companies, all of which are controlled by the Brotherhood of Darkness. And so that's what we can expect. So this rally will run out of gas. It's probably the last chance to sell. Excellent opportunity, and that's the end of it. It's going down.
Well, the interesting thing is, what we're not hearing is that the dollar has been dropping dramatically from 89 on the basket of currencies, with 100 being where it should be, par. It was at 120 a couple of years ago. It got up to, it fell to about 60 something or other, and then it went back up to 89. But now it's been falling. It's fallen almost 10 points in the last couple of months.
Well, it's come down from 89.5, and I've got today's close here, and that was 89. Well, I'll give it to you later. I don't have it right at my finger, but it was 89 something.
No, but 79. It was 89 or was it 79?
79.
Right.
So it's off 12%.
And, of course, going along with that, this is why the price of oil is going up, because the value of the dollar is falling, so it's more expensive to buy oil. This is another reason why gold and silver are really going up so strongly, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I think there's rotation going on. And that rotation is that people are selling stocks at this relatively high level. And they got to have some place to go with the money. And so what's left? They're not going to go in real estate. They're not going in bonds because they're breaking down and interest rates are rising. And so they go to commodities and gold and silver. And gold and silver are making moves toward gold toward $1,000 and silver towards $20. And those prices will probably happen. And, I just wrote about this dollar index a few minutes ago, just before the program. Anyway, the index rose 0.31 today to 79.13, so that's the correct figure for the day, but it's off 10 or 12% from its high, and I think it's going to continue to go down.
Well, would you like to talk a little bit about the bond market? People really don't understand the bond market, but the bond market is really the foundation of the industrial base of our nation, of a so-called capitalist system. And the bond market is about 10 times larger than the stock market. And we just saw what happened to the bondholders in General Motors and Chrysler, and they got little or nothing. In fact, a lot of the people with bonds are sort of looking at that and saying, do I really have any security in bonds, which were always a safe investment up until up until recently. Why don't you talk a little bit about bonds so people could really understand the difference between a stock and a bond?
Well, a stock is ownership in the corporation, and you don't usually receive interest or dividends. Occasionally, nowadays, you might get a dividend, whereas historically it was different. But bonds are bought to pay interest. And when a bond goes down, the yield goes up. And so recently, the U.S. 10-year and 30-year Treasury note and bond fell. And in falling, they set a new high yield for the last few years. And the bonds have been in a bull market for about 20 years. And this could be the big breakdown in bond prices and higher yields. And we predicted in January it was 2.35% at the time. And we said we expected it to go to 350 by the end of the year, and here we are just leaving May, and it's gone to intraday it was 377, closed at 368 today, but I had an intraday today of 372. So yields want to go higher, bonds want to go lower, and I think that you're going to continue to see pressure in that area, and that pressure is being controlled by the problems that the Treasury has, what the Fed has. The major banks in America are bankrupt. The major brokers' houses are bankrupt. And, the world knows it. And all of this TARP and these other funds that they flowed through are just temporary measures. They don't know in fidelity what they're going to be able to do. And at the same time, they continue to grab as much money via corruption as they can. And so the bond market is in serious trouble. And the stock market really still is too, even though we've had a very large rally which has been massaged every day by the working group in financial markets, which manipulates markets throughout the world 24/7.
Now, Chris, the average individual doesn't understand that the stock market is manipulated by the Working Group on Financial Markets, also known as the Plunge Protection Team. But anybody can go up on the Internet and simply look up the Working Group on Financial Markets. They were established to manipulate the stock market. They really were used only rarely to accomplish that until recently, but certainly you know when they're working because then the market has been down all day long, and then just about 30 minutes before the close, suddenly all these orders come in from the Cayman Islands, and the market ends up, you have to bend down 200 points, it ends up to 50 or 100 or 200 points. You know somebody's manipulating the stock market, but nobody's telling the American people. They honestly think we have a free enterprise system. We have a supply and demand, or influenced by, the what people think is going to happen in the market. I think that people would be very disturbed to realize that the commodity market is manipulated, the stock market is manipulated, our reality is manipulated. Would you agree or disagree with that, Bob?
I would agree. In being on a number of radio programs that are generally like this, and those that I've been on the last few months that are regular line media organizations, and I've been talking about the Federal Reserve, and in so doing, I've been able to bring in the Working Group in Financial Markets, and it's been a revelation to a lot of people.